In this video, I'm going to show you how I'm using this camera right here. This is the OBSBOT Tail 2, and I've done a couple of videos about it. But one or two of you have asked questions about how I control it, because it's a PTZ-R camera, which means that you can move it, it's got a gimbal, it can also rotate as well. So in today's video, I want to introduce you to the software that goes with this camera. Now you can get the software on a mobile device, and you can also get it on a tablet, but the one I'm going to concentrate on is the one I use the most, which is OBSBOT Center on the Mac. It's also available on the PC as well. And you're looking at it right now. So I'm going to be looking at my computer screen and sometimes you, but you can see both at the same time. So right now I've actually got a preview which you can see right up here. But before we get to that, I'm actually going to take the preview away so you can see a couple of different things. With OBSBOT Center, you have up to 4 different camera options, and I can connect 4 different cameras at the same time, and they're right here. I've actually got 2. If I bring the preview back, which is just here, if I do that and give it a second, there we go, we're back. And then if I move over to the second one, that's my OBSBOT Meet 2, which is actually just hanging up here. So I can switch between the two. I can even dictate in the settings what order I want them in. So the Tail 2 is always number 1. So therefore, that's my main camera. I'm always going to use that. So to get this preview, you can see this little camera icon here. And you can see it's recording right now. You'll probably see this jump around as I cut this video up. But if I go to here, it then gives me a video preview, and the other thing you can do as well is you can record directly on the software. Right now, I'm recording on the SD card that's inserted into the camera, but you can actually record directly here if you want to, and you've got the audio sources, the video sources, whatever you want to do, and you can also have virtual camera. Virtual camera is really important if you're going to be outputting this to somewhere like OBS or Restream. But leaving all that to one side for a second, the main thing I do is actually here. So you've got turning them off, which I'm not going to do right now. We've got the output, whether we're doing recording or photography. You've also got beauty, which I don't touch at all. You've also got the remote control, which I have here, and this is a remote control for up to 3 OBSBOT cameras, which is really, really cool. And then there's more. So if I click on more, you can do global hotkeys. So if you do this on your keyboard, so if you want to change something, you can do that. And you've got OSC as well. Now underneath that, we've got 3 main controls. So we're on the Tail 2, we know that, and that's fine because it's gone red. And then we've got console, image, and more. The one you'll mainly stay in is console, and then with image, if you're using it like this where it's in a static position, you'll probably set up the image bit and then kind of leave it alone. So there's a couple of things you can do. First of all, it's on our Wi-Fi, so I can use it on the Wi-Fi, and it even tells me the battery. It's plugged in at the moment, so you can see it's on charge. We can see it's recording, and that's fine. We can take a snapshot, a photograph whilst it's recording, that's not a problem, and that's just been saved. And then we can also switch from landscape to portrait. As I said before, the Tail 2 is a PTZ-R camera. Without even touching it, the actual lens can rotate 90 degrees. So if I wanted to make content for Instagram or TikTok or YouTube Shorts, that's how I do it. Underneath here is a couple of options that I've actually turned off because I want to show you them one by one. And we start with AI tracking. So if I give this a click, you'll then see we've got this menu. We start with single mode tracking, and I'm going to do it right now. And you can do it by a couple of different ways. You can put your hand up, and I'll show you that later. But if I click single mode tracking, then what it does is it starts putting a box around me, and I can move, and then you're going to see a messy studio because there's stuff in the corner there. And then you've also got group mode, but before we get to that, you notice there's a thing called zone tracking. It says enable zone tracking, camera will only track within a defined user range. So let's say, you see as I move my hands there, it's figuring out where I am and who I am, and it's really, really clever. But you can actually have it in a defined range. So if you've got a stage, or if you've got an area that you don't want the camera to move beyond, so I don't want it to move beyond this bit here, I can define that range. So if I move, the camera will go to the edge and then it will stop. With single mode, we've got what we're tracking right now. As you set the tracking, the other thing you can do is you can set whether it's going to zoom in or not. So when it's off or on 24, it's not going to zoom in. But if I set it to say, let's set it to 3. So it's going to track obviously from here upwards, and that's fine. If I start moving, you'll notice it's automatically zooming. This is really, really clever because it's got a 5x optical zoom. So if I was to perform here with the guitar, maybe I wouldn't put it on 3, I might put it on 5 or 7. So let's put it on 5, and that's kind of like to the bottom of your waist there. And then of course, if I've got the guitar, it's still tracking me and zooming in. And this works really, really well, really fast, and you can see that it's figuring out what it's tracking, which is great. Now, you can actually stop the tracking in a different way where you can raise your hand up, but I'm just going to stop it by clicking this single mode button. Now it's not tracking at all and it's going to move around. But what we can do is we can set it. We can set the tracking and set where it should go to or not. Now I haven't done that yet for this demonstration, but you can see that's just all human tracking. You've also got animal tracking. So if you want to track an animal and be close up, you can do that as well. And you've got object tracking as well. So with the tracking, obviously these work hand in hand, but you can actually set how fast the camera actually moves. So I've got it set to lazy because I want it to move quite slowly. And then I'm going to get it to track me again, high. But this time I'm actually going to put it onto crazy. And what crazy does is it doesn't matter how quickly you move. So if I try and do this, it will literally track you. So if you're running around the stage or you're filming sports stuff, it will track that no problem at all. I haven't been able to actually do it unless I leave the room, which is crazy. So we'll put it onto lazy, and lazy is just a little bit more subtle, you know, easier to watch, I think. And then I'm going to turn that off. So that tracking you can do. The other thing you can do with the tracking as well is you can lock the pan or lock the tilt. So maybe you want it to move side by side, but you don't want it to move up and down. Or maybe you want it to move up and down, but you don't want it to move side and side. And you can do that. So we can put tracking back on. We can lock the pan access. So now as I move, it's not going to, but if I move up, it will move up and down, but it won't move side to side. Or the alternative is we lock the tilt access, so it will move side to side, but then it won't track beyond there. If you've got maybe a stage and you don't need it to move up and down, you want it to be locked on that stage and you need it to move side to side, but it doesn't need to move up or down, you'd probably lock the tilt axis. Now I'm going to turn that off, and I'm also going to turn off tracking. How I use this myself is actually, certainly in this studio, is presets. Presets are exactly as they sound. What we can do is we can actually have preset places for it to go to. So what you normally see is P1. You can call this whatever you want, by the way. So if I give this a click now, woomph. You see that? That is the look that you normally see on the channel. That's how I have it set. Now I've got a couple of others, and before you get to the presets, you can see the preset switching speed. You can change the speed of this. So if I go to stage, that's actually to cover this area over here, and if I click that right now, it'll focus in on that area. Now it'll go out of focus because the other thing as well I've got is I manually change the focus myself. So we're on stage at the moment. High, and then if I go back to P1, it'll go back to P1, and then I manually adjust the focus. So it's a little bit out of focus right now, and this is where viewing gimbal is. You've also got P3 if you want to use that. So the focus mode is right here, so I can adjust the focus accordingly. And there we go. You can also have it on a focus where it focuses on specific things depending on what you're doing. But what I've found as well is it depends on the lighting. So I like to have it in manual focus, so then I'm controlling it. And then the viewing gimbal is literally as you think it is. It's a joystick where you can move things around and you can move it slow or fast, so we can have the gimbal speed to be fast, and we can say don't be coarse, be fine, so we can move it around and have it wherever you want. You can also change the roll because this can rotate. I can actually start changing this. So as it moves, you may see it start to tilt. You see that? End up looking like the Joker's lair in 1960s Batman. There we go. Or what we can do is we can reset it and it'll tilt it back the way you want. So if your table is slightly off, or you're maybe at a venue that's uneven, you can actually roll it through so it's completely straight. You've also got the zoom, and with the Tail 2, it's a 5x optical zoom, so you have a 12x hybrid. So if we were to go over to stage and go back to there, you'll notice it automatically zooms in. It's only zooming in at 2.8, and then I'll just change the focus there. But let's just keep zooming, and just to give you an example, if I go to 5x zoom, there we go. It's totally up to you. It totally depends on what you need. I need it to do very specific things, so I can obviously tell it what to do and put it in manual focus. And that is console. That is the first part. There's also a full reset. You can reset everything, and it just puts it exactly back at sort of 0 for everything. But I mainly use it in P1, and then I'll use it P2 if we're doing performance, but then you can also just tell it to track me. The next part of this is image, and this is where we go a little bit further in. So first of all, you got HDR, which is high dynamic range, and it's switched on at the moment, but because I'm recording, I can't switch it on and off. It's just on at the moment. We've talked about focus. Focus is right here, and we can actually reset the focus. So if I do that right now, you'll see it goes a little bit blurry because it's a little bit out of focus, so we'll put it on manual to keep it where we want. Then you've got the exposure. So I've got lights here for the studio. Maybe you've got lights on stage. You can do auto exposure, or of course you can manually adjust it. So if I go auto exposure, it might go quite bright. Yeah, there we go. And then also, what do we focus on? Well, it's focusing globally or on the face. That's a bit too bright for me, so I change it down. So I do 1/60, and the ISO is sitting at 400. Between 400 and 500, it depends on what I'm doing. This light's a little bit dull today, so maybe we knock it up to 500. You have got an auto flicker as well if you're on auto exposure. And then you can also do white balance. So if you don't know about white balance, it's the temperature of light in what's called kelvins. So this is 5600 Kelvin. That light's 5600 Kelvin. That light's 5600 Kelvin, so therefore put the camera at the same one and you should have a natural skin tone. Let me just show you if I actually just boot this down to 2000 Kelvin, it's cold. And if I go all the way up to 10,000, it's yellowy and warm, so blue and yellow, and then everywhere in between. So if we start bringing this down, and these are at 56, that's called the natural white balance. You can put it into auto, and it'll change it slightly to put it 61, but I like a little bit of a bluey sort of colour. And then you've got different ones. You've got daylight, fluorescent, tungsten, cloudy, and custom. Cloudy is very close because it's at 6000. And these are kind of the things that you would set once, certainly if you leave in the camera where it is, doing multiple videos, and then leave it, if I'm honest. And then you've got image, so we can actually start playing around with the image. It's on standard at the moment where everything's 50%. We can do outdoor, and it goes really, really colourful. We've got pastel, so make it a little bit more pastely, or we can customize it, so we can change the brightness if we want to, we can change the contrast, and you can play around with it. I just leave it on standard. I think it's absolutely fine for what I do with this YouTube channel, and it looks fine for me. Let me know if you want it like super contrasty, and we could do that maybe in the future. So with focus, exposure, white balance, and image out the way, the next one is more. And more, this is where you can really hone in how it works. So we've got loads of different things here, and it's currently recording, so you'll see media settings, and a couple of others are grayed out because we can't change it whilst it's recording. The first one you've got is device initial state. And when you boot the actual Tail 2 or Tail Airs up, then you can have an initial position for it to go into. I actually do this in a slightly different way. When we go to console, and then you go to presets, you'll see there's an arrow for the preset. And what I can do here is if I click it, I can get update PTZ and then update as initial state. So then when it boots up, it's going to go to P1. Simple as that. But if you haven't set any presets, what you can do is you can have a device initial state. So maybe you just want it completely straight and not moved at all. You can do that. The device power on, power off, you can do automatic, you can time it as well. So maybe you only want it on at a certain time, you know, same time every day. Maybe you're in a venue, in a club or something, and you want it on at a certain time and turned off at a certain time. The output section is vast, and this is where you've got lots of different outputs. You've got lots of different connections on the back, but you've also got lots of different connections internally. The first one is UVC mode. This is turning the Tail 2 into a webcam, so you can use the output on your computer. So after enabling this, it says recording, and all the others are not available. So I can't record whilst it's in UVC mode, but I can get a feed via virtual camera, so I can record and still do virtual camera. Then you've got NDI. NDI is a protocol for sending the audio and video over the internet, so then I could control this camera in a different country as long as I've got internet access. You do need a license for that, and you have to buy that license separately, but once you've got that, you can turn NDI mode on. You've also got RTSP mode, you've also got SRT mode, and then you've got the SRT settings. There's also SDI on the back, so you can have different level A and level B SDIs. Very, very useful in a pro setup. As I said, media settings are currently recording, so I can't play with that. And then the gesture control is where they actually promote it. They promote this on the website. Instead of actually tapping the button to say, you know, can track me, what we can do is we can actually do it this way. So if I hold my hand up, I didn't press a button or anything. There you go. It just did it. And then if I put my hand up again, it stops tracking. So the light on the front goes blue if it's tracking. And then you can also do ones for recording and zoom. So if I do the zoom one, be prepared, it's about to zoom in. If you just make an L shape, there we go. And it's going to zoom in 2 times. And if I make the L shape again, it'll zoom out. And I've told it what to zoom in and zoom out. This works in conjunction with tracking, so if you're tracking and you want to zoom in, it'll keep you tracked whilst doing that, which is really clever. Then you've got the audio. The audio at the moment, I've got a microphone plugged in. The Tail 2 doesn't have a microphone of its own, but it has a mic input and an aux input. So I've got a microphone plugged in, which is the Rode Video Mic Go 2. And then you can see the volume there. You've got noise reduction, so we can actually add noise reduction on if you want, weak, medium, or strong. And there's also an auto gain, which is really clever. So if you are walking away, you don't have maybe a lapel microphone or anything like that, and you want to obviously to pick up, it can do auto gain and raise the gain up as it's hearing less. You can mirror the image, but again, we're recording right now, so it won't let me. View and gimbal reversed, if I turn that on, what this means is that when I actually go to view and gimbal, if I go to the right, it's going to move left. So if I do that, it's going to go the wrong way around. And then if I turn that off, now if I do that, it's going to go that way, and it's going to go that way. You've also got virtual tracking, so we can move this around and actually have a target IP address. So then you can get someone else to log in. So as you're performing, they could maybe be moving it for you. Then there's some general settings. Do you want it to buzz? Do you want the light on? What the battery is, the tally light, which is quite useful. The SD card, you can also format that right there. And then external device is the remote control. So I can pair this remote control up with this, so then I can control it. I use this quite a lot when I'm doing performances, so instead of having to put my hand up or walk back over to the computer, I can just hit record from right here. I can also move it around as well, and this works with up to 3 cameras, which is great. It is an additional purchase, but it's definitely worth it if you're nowhere near the camera or not even near the computer and I'm over there performing. I can just click it and all 3 cameras hit record at the same time. So I've got 1 tail 2, 2 tail airs, and then I can just go boop and all 3 start recording. That's really cool because I don't have to go, right, you hit record and I'll hit this record on this one, hit record on that one. I can just do it and it's all bang at the same time. Really useful for editing your stuff afterwards because you kind of know where it is. I'll always do a clap at the beginning of the recording anyway, so you can capture the audio spikes for video editing, but being able to hit record on this, they do record simultaneously. You hear the beep on all 3 of them at the same time, so that's really, really handy. After that, you've got firmware updates, export log, and manual upgrades, but the firmware update does it all inside OBSBOT Center anyway. The last little bit I want to show you is actually just the settings. Just up here, you've got explore, set, and pin. A pin's quite useful. You can actually pin OBSBOT Center, so if you've got something, it will always go behind it. So that way it's always on top. So if I do that now and it'll move over the top, that's just a really handy feature. Certainly if I've got things like OBS or Restream up on my computer, I want to keep that on top so then I can quickly adjust things if I need to. Now that's OBSBOT Center, but also the preview that you can see here right now has a load of settings with it as well. So we can rotate the actual preview, we can mirror the image, we can actually do object tracking. So we can select an object to track. So let's track my cup. And we go tick, yes. So now it's not following me, it's going to follow the cup. And it's pretty quick. Can't really fool it much, which is pretty cool. You can also do AI composition. So let me just do tracking, and what we'll do is we'll go into tracking me. So this one here with the little crosshair, I can dictate where in the frame I'm being tracked. So if I click this now, it's keeping me on that crosshair. So what's cool is I can actually say, well, I want it like that. So then as I'm looking at my computer, I'm onto one side, but if I move around, then it follows it. The other one you can do is face framing. So if I click on face framing, what I can do is, depending on where I'm looking, and I'm not touching anything, if I look left or right, it will move the camera based on where I am. This is so cool. So maybe if you're doing an interview with someone, you want to be this way, or you want to be this way and you're talking to the band members and everything else, you've got another one of these and it's facing the other way. So you've got that sort of framing, which is pretty cool. So that's OBSBOT Center, and I hope that gives you a little bit of insight as to how I use it, and I'm just wondering how you would use it as well. Let me know in the comment section below, and of course, if you want to check out the video about the OBSBOT Tail 2, that's just come up on screen. Go watch it, because it's now replaced my Sony camera as the main camera for the YouTube channel, because it can just do so much more.